The Broncos are coming off a loss to the Chiefs that ironically has provided much momentum. Can they bring that offensive energy back against a struggling Cardinals squad? We'll find out on Sunday. Broncos Country, I'm Lori Lattimore-Volkman, and this is The Roundup. Well, our starting quarterback, who finally had a good game, but is now in concussion protocol, may or may not be back on Sunday, so it could be Brett Rypien in the saddle. We learned on Friday that despite passing the concussion protocol, Wilson will not be playing on Sunday, according to his coach.
Russell Wilson has passed the concussion protocol. With that being said, as an organization, we've decided to give him another week to get ready, and he's ready to go for the Los Angeles Rams. Russ is one of our ultimate competitors in this game. He's unbelievable. We informed him of the decision. He's not happy with it. He wants to be out there and play. He's very, very competitive, as we all know, and wants to compete for this team and be out there. And we as an organization, after discussing and talking throughout this entire week, have decided it's best for our organization. It's best for Russell, and we talked about this from top all the way to the bottom. So we looked at every single thing and just want to give him another week to get ready. We're very confident in Rip, very excited about Rip and this opportunity to go against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. Not exciting that Russell, is obviously injured and recovering, but I know he's doing better, and I'm just excited for the opportunity. Always excited when you get to play. Such a blessing to be in this position, and going out, and my only focus is to try to get a win on Sunday.
But we do know that the 4-9 Cardinals are coming with Colt McCoy, and he has a bit of a vendetta against the Broncos. In 2010, the Broncos drafted Tim Tebow over him. So he may be coming back with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
With Kyler out, what are you seeing from Colt McCoy on film, and how do you keep him from settling in?
Colt, we were with him in San Fran way back when, and smart guy, very decisive. He plays very fast, gets the ball out fast. Obviously they had some protection issues last week, so we'll see how they adjust from that standpoint. But he's a very good player, and he's been in this league for a long time because what he could do above the neck, and he's a very good athlete. So.
Either way, we know DeAndre Hopkins has a chip on his shoulder as he's been out most of the season with a suspension, and he will likely be one of Colt's biggest targets on Sunday.
This is the best catch that you'll ever see that doesn't count. He got one. He can't get his other arm over there, and he's able to haul that in.
And despite a costly fumble on Monday night, Hopkins will definitely be looking for some redemption.
And touchdown, Raekwon McMillan.
Yeah, they got a very what's the word I'm looking for? A diverse group in terms of the skill set. They got big guys, they got fast guys, they got in and out guys, and so they got an array of traits in that room. And so Hopkins is a great player, obviously. AJ Green can still do some things on the edge. Number 83 Dorsch is doing a good job as well. Robbie Anderson. They got a bunch of guys that have different skills, and they utilize them pretty well.
Thankfully, the Broncos secondary is the best part of this defense. And so, Hopkins, Marquise Brown could be in for a tough day, especially if Randy Gregory plays. The pass rush is likely to be much stronger with Gregory back there as he pairs up with Baron Browning, who's having a great year, regardless of who he's played with.
Coach Randy Gregory practiced yesterday. He could be back for this Sunday.
Gotcha.
How much will he benefit the defense, and exactly where will he have the biggest impact?
He's a great player, and so if he's out there, we're a lot better. And so, hopefully we could get him back.
Coach Cliff Kingsbury, who seems to have similar issues to game planning as our own coach Nathaniel Hackett, decides to unleash running back James Conner. They could find more success as our run defense still struggles to keep the big backs down. Both teams are looking for a way out of the dumpster fires that explain their front offices and their coaching staffs. Although the Broncos are underdogs in their own house, shame on you, Vegas. The game is likely to be a close one. But whether it's a 10-9 close game or a 30-27 close game is anybody's guess. It just depends on which teams show up.
Play clock is down to 3. Mahomes looking, intercepted. Josie Jewell, his second of the day. And Jewell gets popped at the 45.
And to help me look forward to this crazy, unpredictable matchup is former NFL tight end Ed Smith. As a radio host out in Arizona covering the team every week, he has a lot of insight into both the locker room and the on-field performance. Enjoy, because it's a good one.
Broncos country? That's right.
Hey Broncos country, this is Lori Lattimore Volkman with the Roundup, and this week I have a special guest, Ed Smith, a former NFL tight end for 6 years, also a former third baseman in the AAA ring for a bunch of teams, and currently with Believe in Cardinals and hosting his own radio show, Easy Sports Talk Show. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did, Lori. Thank you. Great to be with you, too.
You were a tight end for several teams. Were you on the Falcons when they played the Broncos in the Super Bowl?
Yes, ma'am, I was. I was part of those dirty birds that, we beat Minnesota, but just didn't have enough to take down those Broncos. That was an amazing experience, but golly, we were so close, but just outclassed in that one.
Yeah, I mean, we had, that was the year the Broncos were strong. The year before when they beat the Packers, we were definitely the underdog, definitely, had a good team, but kind of got a few breaks in that game that really helped. And then the following year, Elway was kind of riding his retirement year.
Yeah. And it was so strange to be, because I was a big Elway fan when I was younger, to be playing against him. And then, watching him get hoisted onto the shoulders and everything. It was it was good to be there. I just wish it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah. It was also, that was the game, the Super Bowl, where I forgot his name now.
Eugene Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah. The famous, that in itself was in a story, we were so unfocused. There were so many things that happened after his arrest and the morning of the leading up to pregame, and then the weirdness of him walking into the locker room, not saying a word to anybody, just getting dressed. And then it was never addressed, and everybody was so unfocused, and he was, they abused him in that game. And I could say that a big part of the responsibility or the fault or blame would lie on his shoulders and how he played, like I said, emotionally and physically out there on the field. It was rough.
Yeah. You wonder, I'm sure there was plenty of second guessing, but if you had maybe even just gotten out in the open and addressed it in the locker room, and then the team could feel like, all right, whatever, we're doing this together. I don't know.
We could have rallied behind him. We could have rallied behind him. We all make mistakes. And he was, ironically, he was our spiritual, every team has that
I
guy.
know he was the Christian Fellowship of Christian Athlete of the Year or whatever award they give.
He would hold all of our chapels, pregame in the showers and this and that and the other thing. And when it happened, I was like, oh my God. And like I said, all the focus, everything, which should have been on the game and our game plan in this 3 hours out there battling Denver. It was, like I said, it couldn't have, if it would have happened earlier in the week, we would have had a chance to rebound. The night before the game, the morning of the game,
and even Dan Reeves spent half the night at jail, right? Getting him out, bailing him out.
Getting him out, And then, like I said, the fact that we never addressed it. And when I tell people that, they think, no, you guys no, it was Coach Reeves. Hey, we know something happened last night. I'm not going to talk about it. No comment. We got a game to win. And then when, we were all waiting around, just, getting dressed and out on the field and waiting for Eugene to at least show up. And then we'd have a quick rally. And he just got to his locker, put his uniform on, and it was like, let's go. And everybody was looking around kind of like, we're not even going to talk about this.
Wait, something kind of happened last night.
Yeah. So focus was way off. But, you know that old saying, Lori, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved it all. I made it to the Super Bowl, and even though the experience, I got the little ring, not the big ring, but I'm proud. I'm proud to say I was there.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think it's always like in the moment. I'm sure losing the Super Bowl, because I've been there as a Broncos fan.
Yeah,
is the worst. But years out, it's like, when you think about how many people never go to that game, how many
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't even go, like some people are losing teams. Like there's plenty that it's an amazing accomplishment, but I'm sure it takes a little bit of distance before it doesn't sting as
Oh,
much to lose it.
it was absolutely gut wrenching. You talk, big, strong athletes. We're supposed to be macho. When we finally realized, because we were trying to fight to the end, when you started to finally realize this one is slipping away, grown men, including myself, crying like a baby on the sideline. Just
Yeah.
and it's all that emotion. The lead up to it. Weren't even supposed to be there in the first place, and we got all the way there. And I'll say one last thing. Dan Reeves said something after we beat Minnesota that reverts. I mean, that after all the celebration on the field, trophy, we finally get inside. Everybody's hugging. He said, "Look, gentlemen," he said, "we've accomplished a lot, but if we, right now you're experiencing the highest of the highs. If we don't go down to Minnesota or go down to Tampa Bay, if we don't go down to Miami and finish this off, you're going to experience the lowest of the lows." And that was prophetic
It
because he had been there
was.
before, with
Yeah.
Denver. And I'm telling you, it took days, it took weeks to
Oh,
just,
I'm sure it
yeah,
takes till the next season almost, I'm sure, when you're
yeah,
like can
yeah.
start over and you don't have to be always thinking about the last game you played.
I tell you what, though, when I got my ring, that made it feel a little better. That was my
That's
NFC
good.
Championship ring.
That's good. In fact, so what do you think about Dan Reeves? He's in our Ring of Fame, and of
Yes.
course he's been up for the Hall of Fame, and I personally think he deserves it, even though,
Dan Reeves, and I do a lot of radio, I do a lot of podcasts, I talk to people, I speak. Dan Reeves, to me, is one of the most important men in my life, and one of the best, not just coaches, but men I ever
yeah.
met. And I have a bunch of great Dan Reeves stories. I was so sad when he passed, and I am devastated that he was not in the Hall of Fame before he passed, and he should be.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it posthumously, then something is wrong with this league. But I mean, and I have some teammates who had, some of my former Falcon teammates who had different experiences with Dan. So we all,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm telling you, he was one of the greatest men that I've experienced in my life. And just, I love Dan Reeves. I honestly
Yeah.
do. I really
I
do.
think, Broncos fans certainly had mixed feelings initially when he left, or when he was fired, because of his relationship with John Elway, and just the
Yeah.
perception that he was holding John Elway back. And I think he did a little bit, but not without good reason. Like he
Yeah.
understood that you can't just let the cowboy go out there and sling the ball around and be successful as a team always. I mean, it will work, and at times you need it, especially when you have to, comeback victory. But at other times, like, the coach needs to be the coach, and he has a grand reason for all that. And I think over time, Broncos fans have definitely come to embrace Dan Reeves for everything he was, even that part where he kind of was the hamstring for John
Yeah.
Elway.
He was young and learning himself, many,
Yeah,
many years ago. And, he to me, he had a method behind everything he was doing.
very
And
much.
that was the part I appreciated most about him. And the fact that he cared more about us as men than he did even as athletes. He always wanted us to do the right thing on the field, but he had an honest concern from the first player on the roster to the 53rd guy and practice squad guys. He had an honest caring for us. And I played Niners in my baseball before I started playing in the NFL, played for coaches and managers that could
Yeah.
give a good doggone about you. And they didn't hide it. And the fact that, like I said, this man cared more about me off the field, or just as much off the field that he did on. And when I did well, he praised me, and I was one of those little worker bees. But when I needed to step my game up, he let me know, as well as the other guys on the roster. It didn't matter whether it was Jamal Anderson, Chris Chandler, myself, whoever it was. He treated us all the same and cared about us. And man, I tell you, I honestly can say that I love that man. He was a great dude.
No, that is so
Yeah.
nice. That's great. All right, this is going to be fun. So we have lots of stuff to get into. You just mentioned before this the hard knocks, which I completely forgot about, and so that's always fun to start with. What is it like having a team be the focus of Hard Knocks. I'm sure for media and fans it's fun, but for the team it might be, I don't know if it's fun or if they get nervous. What do you think?
And this is all new over the last bunch of years. When I was playing, I don't even think we had Hard Knocks at the time. So I'm not sure how I would have felt about those cameras everywhere. I would, and here's the thing, Lori, because the season is going so badly for the Cardinals, this is the time where you don't want those cameras around,
Right.
because they're going behind the scenes and we're seeing everything right now. And normally you like the good, happy story. This Cardinals season has been a debacle from the start. Starting with the offseason with Kyler Murray and all the contract talk, scrubbing of social media, he comes back, clause in the contract. You got, everybody getting extensions, Kingsbury, Kime, it's like Oprah giving out TVs on the show. You get a TV, you get a TV. So everybody got all these contract extensions, and then you have this type of season. And preseason, we're getting ready for it. And I brought up the point, this could be a rocky road. And the last thing you want, if you're struggling, for these cameras to start coming around week 8, 9, and 10, and it has been a tough watch for me personally, because I know what the players are going through.
Right.
But on the flip side, Lori, it is very entertaining for anybody who wants to watch what is basically a train wreck in progress. The season.
Well, man, Broncos fans, if they were, the Broncos fans that watch are probably, they're like, oh, this might be us. This is totally us right now.
It's amazing how both of these teams had such high hopes going into the season. You guys getting Russell Wilson. We signed our quarterback. We got all this talent over here. And we're, last year we made the playoffs. We got stopped, but, that's taking baby steps.
Yeah.
And, and we get to this. I'm sure when they put this game on the calendar, they were not looking at 3-10 and 4-9.
And 2 backup quarterbacks potentially.
We did our podcast, the recap of the Hard Knocks yesterday, and obviously we got the radio show coming up on Saturday. And I said to my partner, I was like, who cares who wins this game? Because we have to predict it, and we have to, kind of go into the what might or might not happen. I am interested from our standpoint, and you guys have given up a lot of draft picks, so you don't have those. I threw out. We're
picking in like the 6th round next year.
Yeah, I threw out the question: is this time where the front office starts thinking more about the draft and getting wins? We currently have the 6th pick in the draft, and fans don't understand it. It's like, we need to finish this season strong. We need to.
Right.
And meanwhile, the organization's thinking, we're sitting at 6 right now. What's it going to? If we're 4-9. How bad is it if we actually go 4-13, but we end up with the 5th or 4th pick? You don't like to think like that, but it's a business, Laura. And like we're in that time of the season where people are going to start making those business decisions, and be really interesting to see what happens with this game moving forward. I got my eye on this one, 3-10, 4-9. I'm looking for some signs to see what direction we might be going in.
You and I might be the only ones with our eye on a 3-10 versus 4-9 matchup, right?
Well, the last thing I said to my partner yesterday, I said, I hope fans that are watching this game have other options, meaning, dual TV sets, or you got the NFL Network, so you can flip this one off and come back to it if necessary.
Or playing football with their kids in the backyard. I mean,
anything.
It might be better football for all we know.
I'll ask you a question too, Lloyd, because your struggles have been, we've just been like dysfunctional over here. Your struggles have been, they've been dysfunctional as well, but your offense and it just looks, how do you explain that?
Yeah, that question right there is the heart of everyone's frustration, because it's inexplainable when you look at if you took injuries out of it, and injuries are a part, but even, we talked a lot in the off season what depth we had at wide receiver, and we are plucking from the depths of the depth right now. And we've reworked our running back core completely. So and our offensive line hasn't had the same starting group the whole season, and we are now on all backups. We have a couple of third stringers. So it is also a disaster. But even before that, when you watched this team in those first weeks before we had as many injuries and, before the O-line was quite the disaster it is, the offense looked awful. And here we have Russell Wilson, we have Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, who was not a first-round pick, but had proved himself to be a very, very good wide receiver. And early on, we had Javonte Williams until he got hurt, but one of the top running backs in the league. And then we had supposedly this guru of an offensive coach, and it was like just total chaos on the field and stupid decisions and things where, I'm sure you saw this because it's been national news since week 2. The fans had to help count down the play clock for the coaches in week 2 against the Texans because we kept having all these delay of game penalties on calls that were obvious. Like, you're kicking a field goal, you're not kicking a field goal. Like, what is going on? It's just been it's been mind-blowing, and that's why it's so frustrating because there's no reason for it to be this difficult to have an offense on that field. And my complaint all season, and then it showed up again last week, even with our much, much better offensive showing, where the play design, if you have these film guys that'll break it down, and if you break it down in a vacuum, one play design looks good, right? You have this route, and that makes sense, and either it happened or it didn't, and that could just have been, one little mistake or one thing, but good idea. The problem is the play design it has no continuity. There's not a rhyme or reason to when you call the play you call. And so they'll throw in a play and it works, and then you'll never see it again in the game. And then it's like when it's the obvious play, like last week. So I don't know if you saw our game, but
I peeked.
Russell Wilson runs, it's 3rd and 11. He runs 18 yards, gets a first down, almost makes it to the end zone, but gets knocked out and has to go out of the game with a concussion.
Yep.
So we're 1st and goal at the 2. And, we're I think at that point we're only down we're down 10 points we're in striking distance, but a touchdown's not going to tie it yet. But we're on the goal line. But we have to bring in our backup quarterback. And what do they do? What would you do? What play would you call on the 2-yard line?
You try to run the ball in with.
You would run the ball. Like, there's no reason you don't run the ball. Exactly. And what would you call like a fade to the corner? I was like, what the is that?
The most inconsistent play of all time.
Right. Like, it's hard no matter what. It would have been hard for Russell Wilson to do that play, especially with our O-line. Like, come on. And our running game was doing pretty well. So it's like, what are you thinking? I just, like, that stuff,
It's so frustrating.
Nathaniel Hackett should know that if he's an offensive guy. Like, I know that, and I don't call plays. And then Clint Kubiak, who comes from the Kubiak offense of running the ball, like, you should know that.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy bailed them out on that series because he caught a touchdown in the back of the end zone for 4th and 7. And it was like a hard catch. We're so lucky we got that one. But then they did the same thing our last drive of the game. We have the ball. We have a chance to maybe go ahead with a touchdown. We've got 3 minutes, so we're like kind of in control of our destiny. It's 3rd and 3, and we call a pass play. I'm like, 3rd and 3. It's 3. Like, we want to protect the ball. Like, and you have the backup. Like, you're going for it on 4th down. So what if we only get 2 yards? Well, then we're 4th and 1, but we're going for it because of the time of the game. Like, I was livid. And then he rolls out. He's getting pressured because our O-line is, bad and tired. And then he just chucks it up, and it's an interception. Like, the last thing that ever should happen. Yeah. So anyway, all of my ranting, I still haven't gotten over it, is because it just doesn't make sense. Even with injuries, we should have a coherent offense. We should have a game plan that looks like people who know football are putting it together. And instead, it looks like my 12-year-old son and his buddies went out there and just said, get open.
I feel your pain. And I think the most discouraging thing for both of us is it came out of nowhere. You had, like I said, you had such high hopes with everything over the offseason, and here we are. And it's been the same kind of mess over here with Kingsbury and
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, leader or not leader. This play calling, you name it, and I don't I have no explanation for it. And obviously, our biggest now, I guess, the next thing is who survives all of this. Is Hackett
Yeah.
going to be a one and done? Is Kingsbury, he did sign that contract extends through 2027. We now have the issue of Steve Keim taking a leave of absence for health reasons, indefinite. So we don't know when he's coming back, or and there's all privacy right now. They're not telling us anything. So it is an absolute mess over here. It's an absolute mess up there, and there's nothing we can do about it except sit and take it for the next 4 weeks or so.
Yeah, and so you guys, obviously having come from a playoff year, it's got to feel like just probably deflating, because that playoff year was was building to a point. It's like, oh, good, we've made it here. Now we're just gonna keep building with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And we were at the point of like we kept saying the only thing we were missing was a quarterback. So we get a quarterback, and we get and our defense is performing quite well. And it's like you want to strangle people because it's so frustrating.
I've watched you guys lose games 9-10.
You're
I'm
right.
thinking to myself, how the hell do you do that? That's hard to do.
It's hard to do. We scored more touchdowns last week than we had like the 3 previous weeks combined, or 4 maybe. Possibly almost all season combined. Yeah. It's just been horrendous.
Then our future is up in the air now with the Kyler Murray injury, obviously. And ACL, they'll have to schedule surgery. His rehab is not going to be easy. It's going to be long. And I was talking to my partner, because you start looking at the calendar. We're here December 15th.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, you got to be able to trust your legs. If he's almost ready to go mid to late November, do we even bother bringing him back?
Right.
So 2023 might be a wash. And like I said, everything is upheavaled here just with that fact alone.
Yeah, that's true. And you might be looking, if you get that higher draft pick, even you might be looking at a QB.
You never know. It's hard to do when you just gave a dude $230.5 million large. Though.
I mean, we can't. We got it. We're saddled with $150 million.
And you gave up all your draft picks.
Yeah, I know. We've been in that position the last 5 years, and I always have these debates with my colleagues about tanking. I have a couple of them. They're like, they're all for it, and my heart, I can't do it. I feel like I always feel for the players. And let me ask you, I don't know if you ever on a team that was in that position, but just knowing the camaraderie with your players and what you go through in a season, could you even imagine just saying, we're not going to play very hard because we don't want to win?
No. As a player, especially a player of my caliber who was making sure I was always on my best behavior and top performance, because I couldn't afford to lollygag, because lollygaggers get left behind, right?
Right.
And tanking is something that comes from up above. That's when they start sitting starters, coming up with reasons why this guy's not playing. We want to save him for next year. He's in a contract situation. They don't, so they decide that. They put guys that probably are the lower end of the roster. They start getting more playing time, and they're out there playing their hearts out. But you're playing against, depending on who you're playing against, you're going to get your head stomped in if you're playing against the number one performers from other teams, especially as they're trying to make playoff runs and stuff like that. So that's where the tanking comes from. You'll never hear a player say, we didn't, now some guys start making business decisions, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of guys, they don't want to go into an off season with surgery and then rehab and stuff like that. So they'll try to protect themselves a little more, maybe not throw that body around as much, jump on those piles, stay away from this. So those are some of the business decisions that happen. But as far as tanking, you'll never hear players say, I'm not giving you everything I got, because that's not what we do. It comes from up above. They make those decisions up above. Yeah,
and in a way too, if I'm a player and that decision comes from up above, I don't know, it's kind of a message. It's because this is always my argument. Like, that losing mentality, that loser culture, it doesn't set well for the next season. Like, it's even like, as a player, I think that it's kind of an attitude and a mindset you don't want to even be in that locker room. And if up above is saying, hey, we want to lose to get the draft pick, I mean, I'd take that
Well,
message.
see, they never say it. It's an unwritten or unspoken word.
Yeah,
You know what's happening, but they
right.
will never say it because in the locker room and in your meeting rooms, your coaches are letting you know, hey, we need to get out there and even if we're gonna, I don't care what we're gonna finish, we're gonna make sure we're performing and we need to win these last few games. Because here's the other part of it, Lori. Those coaches, they have stuff to prove as well.
Yeah,
They lose jobs just as easily as players sometimes, depending on how their groups play. So they want to
yeah,
make sure you're out. You'll never hear a coach say, "Well, we're going to take this one easy." No,
yeah, no.
they're letting you know. Look, this is my job on the line too. We need to
Yeah,
get out there as a group and shake this up. So, like I said,
yeah,
it's an unspoken word, but you see it when you see it, you know it, but
yeah.
nobody ever says it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we don't even have that option, to be honest,
Luxury, yeah.
because of the draft, like from up above. I mean, could have players who decide to make business decisions, but I feel like at least some of the ones who, the leaders in the locker room and the more outspoken ones, I think it's such a source of pride. They're also so disappointed, especially the defense, that we're in the predicament we're in because they're
Yeah,
performing
yeah.
well generally. And, it's like, again, even if they're not going to be on this team and they're going to be on another team, they need to be able to say, I worked hard all the way. I was
Yeah,
out on the
yeah.
field giving it my all, doing this and this and this.
Can I
So,
ask you a question? What is the feel for Russell Wilson up there? Because he has been taking shots all year. People, it's almost like I'm not sure if you're familiar with the old Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny
oh,
cartoons where
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
duck season, it's rabbit season, it's duck
Yeah,
season, it's rabbit season. I joked with my partner and said, no, I said, it's Russell Wilson season because it
yeah.
seems like, and can you, what is it? What is it like up there? Is everything like from the fans' point of view? Do you guys like him? Is it a bad taste in your mouth? What is the Russell Wilson feeling up there?
I would say it's very, very mixed. It depends, like, so one fan would say one thing, another would say another. But I think everyone, like, and what they're mixed about is what is the reason he's not performing? Is
Yeah,
it because he's not any good anymore, or is it because of the scheme and
system.
the pr- just pathetic offensive game plan every week, which has been
Yeah,
my take. But I also think I think most people, generally most fans, and you probably know this too, you can be on Twitter and get a very different sense. So there's a lot of vitriol on Twitter, on
yeah,
social media, right? And that's because that's where you can be basically anonymous and you can be mean and you can say stuff and you can get out there and Russell Wilson sucks, blah blah blah. But I do think I was at the game last week and I interviewed fans at the game, and even fans who felt like, he's not performing, they actually weren't blaming Russell Wilson. They're like,
okay,
it's $250 million and he needs to be playing better, but I think we need a different coach. I think we need to get rid of the GM. I think actually fans, I think the diehard Bronco fans are whether it's just kind of a resignation that we've got him for 5 years, so we better make sure he gets better, or it's I just don't believe it's all because of his ability that this is happening.
okay.
I think most people are behind him, but there is definitely a group of people very angry that he's gotten paid this much money and he's not living up to that much money. And then, and so there are people who would, you know, try to get rid of him. I'm like, oh my goodness, are you nuts? Like, you're gonna pay that
It's
and try and
impossible.
get
Yeah,
someone here? Like,
yeah,
you're better off trying to work with him and make it better for him than because we're paying him either way.
yeah,
um, and the other thing I think that happens is, and you know this, Russell Wilson, he's so positive and optimistic, and he's so he wears his Christianity on his sleeve and on his social media, and so it's really over the top for a lot of fans, and it's fine when you're winning because you don't care, right? When you're losing, it just becomes a thing to be mad about. And so I think, and truthfully, sometimes I've even felt like I'm not sure Russell Wilson understands what our record is. Like, he comes up
yeah.
to the podium for the press conferences and he's like, hey, how you doing? These are my cleats for, my cleats, and it's pretty cool and all this. And, we just got off like the 9-10 loss. It's like,
Yeah.
like have some situational awareness that it's not good out there. But at the same time, I completely appreciate it, because if you're going to play at this level and you're going to be successful after, having bad games or having a bad season, like, you truly have to be able to just move on. And if it's fake or not, he does a great job of like moving on and not being negative, not talking about it. And so I think for the fans who want more accountability, and they'd like him to get up in there and kind of be like Josh Allen, like, man, I played terrible yesterday.
Yeah.
He doesn't blame it on anybody, but he never seems mad about playing badly. And I think
he's definitely an acquired taste, and I equate it to. Have you ever put way too much sweet cream in your
yeah.
coffee? It's like
Oh,
it just you'll drink it, but it's like, this is nasty. And for the fans, and even from a player's perspective, I would want my quarterback every now and then just to come in and just flip a table over,
yeah.
and I'd be worried that some of my quarterbacks, I'd be worried they went home and kicked their dog, but
Right.
it was
Right.
some type of emotion, some type of negative emotion that sometimes lets us know you care. And he is
Right.
so positive, and he's trying to do it in his own way. But as athletes, it's like, come on, man, this is
Yeah.
not rosy, and it's not
Yeah.
beautiful. This is horrible. And can
Right.
you please, and so some guys are probably in that locker room like, dude, can you please,
Right.
just take the mask off one time and
Yeah.
just, just let it go. And that's where, like I said, it really is an acquired taste from a player's perspective, and as fans, you see what you see. But like I said, it's sometimes it's over the top sweetness, and I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I think fans absolutely feel that way, and I think the media kind of feels that way, and it's, but I think, again, if you're winning, if we'd won all these
Oh
games,
yeah.
then
It's
it'd be
all
like,
great.
Russell Wilson, look at it, I
Yeah.
love his energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, his social media is a little too much for me, but whatever. Now it's bad, and then it is Russell Wilson season. Like, the other thing that's, and Twitter is so bad about this, like, it just becomes this place to vent every frustration in your whole life on this one guy who's not trying to lose. And it becomes, targeted and mean. And in that sense, I think it's great that Russell Wilson seemingly lets it go,
Yeah.
because you have to. You just can't let that get to you. But, a couple
He's
weeks ago, Mike Purcell, our nose tackle, comes off the
Yeah.
field. You remember that? And I think
Yes.
that's the exact reaction you're having. It's like, he's like, I need you to get fired up, because this
Yeah.
sucks. And I want you. I've been out there 40 minutes this game trying to stop this other team, and you need to try and do something.
Well,
So,
like I said, they want some type of reaction, that shows them that, and I know Russell cares. He's a winner. He's won a
yeah,
Super Bowl. He's been to
yeah,
another one. We
yeah,
know his history, but at some point when you're in this type of sport, dudes need to see some fire, and especially when you have an opportunity, you stand up there on the podium, and it's all, hey, we just gotta, we gotta do this, and they were asking him about that incident on the sideline. Yeah, he was saying we need to get this taken care of. I'm thinking the same thing. He's right, and I'm like,
yeah.
it's too milk toast for me.
Yeah, no. And I think for a lot of Broncos fans too.
Yeah.
So, and that's why last week I was at the game, and I don't live in Colorado, so I try to go to a game once a year, and I often pick a good rivalry game. And
Yeah.
heading to it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be terrible. We're gonna lose 50-0, based on the way we've been playing.
You were headed that way too at 27-0 at one
I
point.
know. And when they turned it, but what I loved is the crowd was into it. Because even at 27-0 was awful, but it kind of happened quick. Like it's 6-0, and then they get
Yeah.
a quick, kind of a fluky touchdown. Then they get a good touchdown drive. But in the meantime, the defense is doing some good stuff. So I think the crowd was still like, here we're cheering. Because you could have had a mass exodus at halftime if it stayed
Oh, yeah.
27-0. But then we get interception, get a touchdown, interception, get a touchdown. And it's like, we're losing 27-14 at the half, but the crowd was so stoked because it was like, we had 2 big plays, 2 takeaways, 2 touchdowns, things we haven't had in weeks.
Yeah.
And it was like it was like, the heavens opened up like, oh, and we're losing, and people were excited. So I think I was so excited to see the crowd being behind the team because I think we lost. We've been talking all week about that was the best 6-point loss we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because
It gave you hope almost, like,
yeah.
wow.
And so it's a great segue into, I mean, do you think so? The Cardinals are playing with Colt McCoy. Broncos, who knows? My gut says Russell Wilson plays because he's such a, like he doesn't want to not play. And so
Yeah.
assuming and hopefully it's all true and they're doing a really good job evaluating his concussion because he was knocked out on
Oh,
that
yeah.
play.
Yes, he was. I've
So,
seen that look before up front.
yeah, so assuming he's healthy, I'm sure he's playing. But, like, are the Cardinals, like, it would be, in a way, I would think it's at home for us, but it's, you have the better record. Yeah, well, I know, barely. But are the Cardinals worried about the momentum the Broncos might have this week based on just having finally a good performance on Sunday?
This is an interesting week, Lori, because the loss of Kyler Murray was so like instantaneous. It happened, and you got watching the Hard Knocks episode, and my partner was actually at the game, my radio partner Jay, and during the game we were texting, and three plays in he goes down, and I asked him, I was like, did the air just go out of that building? He was like, oh my God, So this is a week where the reality has set in because you play the game, guys are worried, da da da. He goes against the MRI on Tuesday. He's done for the year. Most people
Yeah.
knew that. And then it's like, and I was asked this, I did a podcast earlier this week, and it was like, what is it like when something like that happens during a game as a player? And it's immediate concern, you have, but at the same time, it's a business and you're out there to perform. So you
Yeah.
have to like try to put it out of your mind
Right.
because we got a game to play. Now,
Right.
what happens though, you get into the week, and obviously, Kyler will be around the facility probably for the first couple days before he has his surgery eventually, and then he goes away and he disappears. Now, this is Colt McCoy's team,
Yeah.
and what is interesting to me is this will be, Colt had 2 starts. Then he obviously had to come in for Kyler in this last instance, 3 games and 3 plays into the game. Can't count that as a start. But during the watch of Hard Knocks, Colt has actually been more of a leader than even our young quarterback, who is, in my opinion, is one of the weakest parts of his personality and game is his leadership. He doesn't have
Yeah.
any.
Right.
Colt McCoy is the exact opposite. Colt McCoy, when he found out he was starting the first game, I think it was against Seattle, he's like, okay, sitting in the meeting rooms, he was like, look, this is what I need. I need everybody to know exactly where they're supposed to be, exactly when they're supposed to be there, so I can get them the ball. And that was him taking control. This is your backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So for me, you guys are actually probably going to get a better version of the Cardinals, believe it or not, even though Murray is hurt, because Colt McCoy, I think, is a better leader of this team. And, 13 years in the league, as most as a backup. But when this dude steps in, he steps in. So funny enough, they have the Cardinals as a 1-point favorite.
I know, at our place.
At your place, 4-9 team on the road who unbelievably were 1-7 at home, which I'm still trying to figure that one out. But we go on the road, and apparently we play a little better. So we're a 1-point favorite coming up there. If Russell plays, you would say you have the slight edge at quarterback, I guess. But Colt is going to come up there ready to fire, and it's a different game plan when Colt's playing. Teams sometimes can't adjust to that because he's flash in. He's flash in, gets in for a couple days, he comes and he's out. But in this instance, I think you guys are going to get a better version of the Cardinals, and this could be really interesting. I do my confidence pools and this and that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tough one, Lord. Just to pick it, and how many points do you put on it with confidence? I can't say I have any confidence in
13-10.
Cardinals. Yeah, but I don't have. I mean, I have no confidence in either one of these teams. After what you guys showed against Kansas City last week, you could come out and put, drop 40 on us. or this could be one of those, 10 to 11 games, something like
Yeah.
that. I'm
Especially if they
I'm
keep calling pass plays on 1st and goal at the 2.
yes, I'm crossing my fingers and just hoping at this
No.
point we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. I can't, this is a hard one to predict though. It
Yeah.
really is.
So how much of this game will rely on James Conner? How much on Marquise Brown? How much on
If
Colt?
I have been preaching, and a couple times this week I've called Kingsbury one of the he gets this genius title. He's an idiot because last week when your starting quarterback goes out in three plays,
Yeah.
you bring
Yeah.
your backup in who's had no snaps with the starters all week, even though it's Colt McCoy, and you rely on the passing game instead of the running game when you have Connor. We should have gotten in under the center, 40 snaps, Connor downhill, just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. What do? We end up still with our backup quarterback throwing the ball 40 times or whatever it is in a game that was at one point 13-13.
What
And
are these
and
coaches doing?
I don't know. And maybe what I thought to a certain degree. I thought Kingsbury was trying to prove his genius against Belichick. Like, hey, look what I did. I designed this and I did all this instead of just doing the obvious with your backup quarterback, run the ball, eat clock, maybe a pass here or there. But, like I said, we're maybe we're the dummies, Laurie. We look at it and we don't see the obvious, and maybe it's, we don't know what we're talking about, I guess.
Your point about trying to show up against Bill Belichick, I am convinced that a lot of our stupid play calling is ego, and it's like,
Yeah.
I want to show that I've got some trickery, or we're going to be we're going to be
Yes.
so creative. And it's like, and what I've been saying this all week, I'm like, the reason if your thought was everyone's going to expect a run on 1st and goal at the 2 is why you don't do it. It's like, there's a reason everybody expects it, because it's the smartest play you've got.
That's what most
Oh my
people do.
God.
Yeah.
Like, just because everyone expects it doesn't mean it's the wrong play to do. You just have to execute it better than they do, right? Like,
Thank you. And here's a secret that a lot of people don't know too, Lori. There are only so many plays in everybody's bag of tricks.
yeah.
The what you do, you can run they're talking about, well, they were expecting that. You can run the same play from 5 different formations, 5 different packages,
Yeah.
5 different motions involved and stuff
Yeah.
like that. There are, like, people think like a playbook, and what I think happens, people look at these games, they see the guys on the sideline with those big old play sheets with all these multicolored this and that. All they're doing, those things are so color coded because they're running the same stuff just out of different formations and packages. And that's the simple truth is, don't outsmart yourself sometime. If it's 1st and goal from the 2, maybe plan to throw the ball on 2nd down, but 1st down, we're going to go ahead and give this a shot and jam this down their throats. But it's, like I said, they think they're smart or want to look like the smartest people in the room, and it comes back to bite them 95% of the time.
99% of the time.
99.
I
Gave
mean,
too much credit.
oh, it is just, man. I need to watch a game with you. I think we would have a good time.
Absolutely.
Apart these teams. Well, what as a former TE, what do you think about Trey McBride and their new rookie?
Oh, that's been a sore spot for me all year because we gave away our 1st-round pick for Marquise Brown. Obviously, they knew that DeAndre was going to be suspended, but I still thought that was the wrong way to go. Marquise Brown is not a number 1 receiver. We could have used that pick on our poorest offensive line. We could have got an edge rusher or something like that. The fact that we gave away, let Chandler Jones get out of here, could have done so much with that 1st pick. But we go out and get Marquise Brown. Okay, so your 2nd pick, you have Zach Ertz, and sometimes being right in the end is not like being right in the beginning, because if Zach Ertz never gets hurt, McBride, he wasn't even a part of this offense. Even now with Zach Ertz gone, he's catching his 1st and 5, like he's got 5 or 6 catches, whatever it is. So when we made that pick, I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I've been preaching for the last, I've been saying for the last bunch of years, what about this offensive line? What about going out and getting an edge rusher? What about cornerback? We got dudes that were working at grocery stores in our defensive back room. We haven't addressed that. All these things we could have done, and we go get a backup tight end for Zach Ertz. So as and I love the position. That's the position I played. did we need that pick? And how has that? I asked, how has the Marquise Brown and drafting of a tight end in the second? How's that worked out for us this year? Absolute. Marquise Brown's been injured. He's not a
Yep.
factor. He's small. He's not a dude that you just throw out there on an island and say, go get us some catches. That's what you gave up for a first round pick. And then
Yeah.
you go make that second round pick. And I that's how the Cardinals do it. That's how they do
Yeah.
it.
Well, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like one of the toughest positions to come into and play well early is a tight end position because you
Yes.
have to play, you kind of learn two playbooks, don't you? You learn the route tree and you learn the offensive line blocking scheme.
You have to know everything. And then throw in the ad that now guys are lining up in the backfield, lead blocking, all the
Yeah.
motions, flexing out. So you have here's the thing. The tight end is the Swiss Army knife of every team, the good ones, great
Right.
ones. They
Right.
they can handle one-on-one blocks against monster defensive ends. They can work with their tackles, double teaming like linemen up to second levels. Then you have to run routes like a wide receiver, dealing with defensive backs. You got to know your blitz packages, when your hot routes are, et cetera, et cetera. Then you throw in the fact that every now and then they'll put you in a lead blocking position, I formation or strong or weak, where you got to go head to head with linebackers. That is a position that is so, you have to know so much that,
Yeah.
and that's why it's overwhelming sometimes for these young guys. But what you usually see after year 2 and 3 and 4, when the guys start picking it up, when you get a good one, that's why when you get a good or great one, they are. I mean, my nephew actually, Irv Smith Jr., he's up in Minnesota, and he injured his knee back around Halloween weekend, or no, high ankle sprain, so he might be back sometime soon. But I watched his maturation, finishing his 4th year here. I watched his maturation at the position, and I'm just amazed because they put him in so many different. My brother and I, his dad, we joke about it all the time. Like, damn, I wish we could play tight end like they play now, all flexed out and all this motion and running free
Yeah.
like wide receivers. But there is so much on the plate of a tight end and it's interesting. You brought up you'd love to watch football with me. I watch football in such a different way than most fans do because I'm a former player.
Right.
I
Right.
you ever seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember at the end when Neil started seeing everything in code? That's how
Yeah.
that's how I watch football. I don't
Right.
watch it.
Like,
You watch it because you're watching specific positions and you're seeing how they did a twist inside, and I'm
yeah.
like, wow, that was great how they picked that up. Or the blitz, you got 7 guys coming and they hit the hot route and different things like that. So I watch coverages, how they try to
Yeah.
roll them and different things like that.
You watch it
So
like it's film day, don't you?
like it's I still to this day, I watch it. Now, the one thing I'll say, I wish I have a 12-year-old son, and he was off yesterday. I wish I knew how to beat him in Madden because he was tearing me up. Yes, I'm watching the coverages and stuff. I'm like, and he's making interceptions. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, no.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, so what do you expect from DeAndre Hopkins? He's coming
A
back.
definite comeback from this past game. They actually featured him and his mom on this latest episode of Hard Knocks. As his mom has it's a heartbreaking story. She was dating a young man 20 years ago, and the rival woman, she came and threw something in a mixture of concoction in her eyes that actually had her skin peeling off her body, and she's totally blind now from the time instance that happened. They got her to the hospital. She was in coma, things like that, and it was touching way they featured on DeAndre and his mom. They had watched her get ready for the game, go to the game, that type of stuff.
Aw.
And then he had that horrible fumble that was the turning point of the game. And part of it, and I said it yesterday on our podcast, part of it was this undisciplined, undisciplined nature of DeAndre and how he was holding the ball. That's a reflection on Kingsbury, if you ask me. If my players, I'm not having them do that type of stuff. And it was, like I said, it was a fumble 6. He fumbled it
Yeah.
at the time the game was 13-13. And it was heartbreaking because obviously they got the cameras up there
Yeah.
on his mom, and they're getting her reaction. Her daughter's giving her the feedback. He literally just dropped the ball. He's like, and she was saying it was totally his fault. He just literally just dropped the ball. Then she grabbed her mom's hand and showed her how he was holding the ball. And so I expect DeAndre after that,
Kind of
especially with
bounce
Kyler
back.
being down, I'm expecting him to come out looking, and I think as a security blanket, you would normally think for Colt, his tight end will be a security blanket. We just talked about that issue with Ertz
Yeah.
being out. With DeAndre, you find him or you know where he is on the field at all time. I expect Colt to be looking for him as much as possible, and I expect DeAndre to have a big game against you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, lucky for us, our secondary is one of our
Yeah.
bright spots. And consistently, we're possibly going to have Randy Gregory back. I'm not sure if he'll play this game, but he's at least back on the clock for coming back from IR. So, um, which he instantly makes the pass rush better. And
Yeah.
we have held it together, to be honest, even after trading Bradley Chubb and having some injuries in and out. But Baron Browning has really had a great year. And Jonathan Cooper has kind of come into being, a pretty good partner with him. But Randy Gregory steps it up to a whole new level. So, how is Colt McCoy against the pass rush, and how is Kingsbury in terms of scheming against it?
It's been bad as far like last week. I think New England sacked us 6 times. Once we got into that mode where we're throwing the ball all over the place, dropping back, and you have that New England front with Judon and a couple of Ocho,
Yeah.
I think or however his name you said, they were just teeing off, and that was even more of a reason why I was like, why the hell are we dropping back so much and not running the ball, taking some of this
Right.
pressure off Colt? And I felt so sorry for him, especially as a quarterback you got no snaps during the week with the first team. You're getting out there, and then they just unleash on you. And it was, so you talk about the genius or the idiocracy, in my opinion, of Cliff Kingsbury. It'll be interesting to see which hat he puts on to come up there. The guy that every now and then looks like he knows what he's doing, and that's every now and then, or the dude that most of the time has no clue. And
Right.
that might dictate the game. Your defense, if we get into that mode and we want to unleash Colt on you guys, that could be devastation for this Cardinals team. And the more we talk, Lori, I'm like, man, I might go with Broncos. I might have to pick the Broncos. Might be a low confidence score I give them, but just knowing what we might try to do coming up there with your defense. And coincidentally, yesterday I'm playing my son in Madden. I had the Chiefs, he had the Broncos, and Surtain made this incredibly ridiculous interception on me that totally turned the game. Could be a foresight into what is coming here.
Well, it was certainly a flashback because Surtain had I don't know if you saw it, but it was like almost didn't like even those of us in the stadium, you're like, was that a cat? I don't know if he caught that. And then you're hoping that they played on the Jumbotron, and they never played on the Jumbotron if it's not actually,
If it's
the thing you want it to be. So I was like, woo! But honestly, even watching the replay, I was like, you gotta really notice that his hand is, because it looks like it skips the ground sometimes
Yeah.
some angles, and other angles it clearly doesn't. But it's like, wow, that was a tough call. I'm glad they made the right one. But Surtain is great. I mean, our secondary has been one of the few consistently good on the team. Like the run defense has suffered, which is why, James Conner should have a good day if if they use him.
You would think like I said, the way Kingsbury uses him befuddles me. You got this dude that's a battering ram when you get him going downhill. I hate the fact that 90% of our 99% of our snaps with Murray are out of shotgun pistol, which does not give James the opportunity to run downhill. I've been preaching that for the last few years. Okay, but then if you're at least give him the ball. I don't care how you give him the ball. I don't care if you got to hike him to him directly, but give him the ball.
Wildcat.
Like Wildcat, I don't care, but we don't do it. We get to a point where you'll watch our games, Lori, and all of a sudden you go to the stats and it's like, damn, Connor had 12 touches, 15 touches. It's like, when are we going to get this dude to 22, 25 touches? Just unleash him. You don't need anybody else in there, and then the sad part is a lot of times our total rushing attempts for a game is in the low 20s. And that's even this past game against New England. I think we threw the ball 40 some odd times. We run it 20 some odd times, low 20s. And I just don't understand how you do that, especially with a backup quarterback. So
Oh my gosh.
Do I
Same.
have confidence that we're going to come up there and unleash Connor on you? Absolutely no.
Well, man, you are preaching to the choir because it's the same situation. In fact, that 3rd and 3 play that I was complaining about earlier that ended in an interception, also from the shotgun. We run so many run plays from the shotgun. I'm like, why would you do that? You just added 5 yards to what your running back has to do.
And you don't allow them to get downhill.
Yeah,
In normal situations, you got a quarterback under center. Even if you don't have a fullback in front of them, your halfback is 7 yards deep, getting
yeah,
ready to run downhill and attack a hole. When you do that read option stuff, it's snap, and then he's got to wait, and then they put the ball in there, and then he starts to slowly start getting chugging with the
right.
ball in his. It's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, half the defensive line is in his face as he's starting.
Let me throw something out at you. I just want to make sure I'm accurate here. Total team rushes against New England, 22 attempts. James Conner, 15 for 85 yards. Total passing attempts with Colt McCoy alone, 27 of 40. So we ran the ball 22 times with a backup quarterback, threw it 40 times. He was sacked 6 times, and that's not counting all the hurries and hits where he either threw the ball away or
Yeah, yeah.
on.
I know. Same. I mean, we've had Russell Wilson, so it's been a little bit, I mean, for most of the season, a little bit different scenario sometimes, but at the same time, every coach, certainly our coaches, and I hear it across the league, they preach, establish the run, establish the run. We got to get the running game going. And then they're like 40 pass plays, 15 run plays. You're like, well, you need to establish the run. Like the players are trying to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're ready. I know every running back on our team wants the ball, and every running back in the league wants the ball. And sometimes I know fans get impatient, but fans should have nothing to do with this. Just because you make 2 yards doesn't mean it's not ultimately effective. I mean,
Productive. Yeah.
the run game is a game of the long haul. Like you're wearing down your defense, you're figuring out your coverage, you're making it's play action, so it's helping for that later. And I don't even play football, and I know this, and I just I don't understand.
You are spot on.
And our coaches will talk about it, but then they don't do it. It's like they get in the game and you throw the ball on 1st and goal. It's still mad.
Can I throw out something that's I think has been very obvious to me is the fact that we both, meaning our Cardinals here and your Broncos there, have 2 coaches that are up over their skis right now.
Oh, way in over his head.
I watched it now, and I explain it like this. There are instances where Cliff literally looks like he's trying to figure out the next play within the 40 seconds after the other play has already been done. They're setting the ball down. The great coaches, great coordinators are, and this is why the delay of game, the great coordinators and coaches, they're already thinking 3 plays ahead, 3 different scenarios, 3 different possibilities. Meaning if we pick up 8 yards on this first down, we already know because we ran this play, we're already got 3 options ready. A play action this, maybe we want to take a shot deep, or maybe this is a spot where we just go ahead and get the first down and get it over with, or we might have a trick play on our sleeve, depending on position on the field. Or we just lost 2 yards, so it's 2nd and 12. What are we going to, we got the 3 options for that. Or what if we got a penalty and it's 1st and 20 now? I got 3 options for that. They are ready to go bang, bang, bang. Our 2 dudes, they're looking at it and they're like, okay, what do I do? And the clock is ticking. It's like, okay, go with that one. Just, and it's like, you can't, so they are so over there.
I know. And I feel like our sideline, they're like, well, we did, that one worked before, but they're going to be on to us. So let's not do that one again. Oh,
it's so frustrating.
It is so frustrating. It is. So which coach loses his job first, Hackett or Kingsbury?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll go Hackett because they just
You got
signed
an
Kingsbury
extension
up through 2027, and then your ownership is new. They have no ties to him, so they're looking at that, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't just go ahead and do it. And I think out of respect for him, because they're like, look, not embarrass anybody. Let's just get through this one. We'll have that private meeting afterwards. Let him know that he probably it's time for him to go, and then we'll do our search for our new next head coach. Out here, it's so complicated with these extensions that were just given to Kime and Kingsbury. The Cardinals family, I call them frugal, not cheap.
Yeah,
They
right.
both mean the same thing though. And
Yeah.
to have to give somebody a buyout of the next 4 years, I don't know if they're willing to do that. So Kingsbury might survive, which I think would just be even more incredibly bad, let's say.
All right. So right before we get to some predictions, and then we'll finish this up, you might recall a couple years ago when we still had Von Miller, my favorite player ever.
Yeah.
Um, he predicted before we played the Cardinals that there'd be an ass kicking. And sure enough, the Broncos had a bad season, lost 4 in a row. They went out and kicked the Cardinals' ass. But, then we went on to still have a losing season. But it was like we had like 4 touchdowns, 2 pick sixes, like unbelievable game. Totally different Cardinals team though. So my question is there going to be any ass kicking in this game, or are we all just going to suffer through some bad offense, possibly some decent defense, and just hope teams come out without too many injuries?
Let's just put it this way. This is a game that I don't even know if I can watch it because it might be just that bad. And I got a nice setup in the house. I got a big screen. I have another small screen next to it. So what I do is I put the big screen, I split it with the red zone and then the feature game of the week.
Yeah.
And on the little TV, I just flip back and forth,
Right.
whatever game. So this might be a game, especially because we're back to 16. Remember, last week we only had 13.
On the little TV.
Yeah, this might be a game that I'm watching the highlights only just because I have to cover it and know the final score, and then I can obviously look up the statistics and everything and be ready to attack it this week. This game is not going to get a lot of love from me,
Yeah.
Lori. So and as far as ass kicking, I don't know if either one of them has a big enough shoe or foot to put in either one of them's ass. Right? This would be one of those, like, when you watch little kids fight. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a bar brawl. This is going to be 2 kids on the playground because it might be just that bad. This is not going to be something everybody needs to watch.
Yeah. Neither team has a Von Miller that can do much damage. No. All right. Well, because we're the home team and because I'm a homer, I'm going to pick the Broncos, but I'm like you. Like, I have very low expectations. And I feel like it's only because we're playing the Cardinals that we have a chance. I think the rest of the season we are 0-3. After this game, we might be able to win this one, but I'm gonna be like 17-14 is my score.
When we started the show, I was like, Cardinals, McCoy, they're gonna go up there and probably win this one. My mind has been changed just because I give all credit to you too. I do think your defense one is better than ours. I do like the fact you guys are playing at home. Colt McCoy, God bless him, the beating he took last week. He might actually want to take out some of that, Cobra insurance, not Cobra, but the Aflac. He might want to go get some Aflac insurance, but for supplemental purposes, because I think you guys might unleash on him, and because I just mentioned it, we're not going to come up there with the mindset that we're going to establish the running game, shorten this one. Kingsbury's going to want to go up there and match wits. And I think just like you, it's going to be a slug, ugly fest, something like a 20-16 or 17. But
10-7.
Yes. Oh, that would be even worse. The good thing, though, we have options. We don't have to watch this mess.
That's right. We're not at the game.
Yeah, I'll be checking in for media purposes only on this one. But yeah, I do. I've kind of slid over to your side. I do think and just to be clear, to give you some clarity on this, at the beginning of the season, my partner and I, we had a bet. We wanted to do overall record.
Right.
We went down the schedule. He had them at 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
I had them at 8-9. My son had them at 7-10.
Ooh.
So and we put a little something on it too. He had to buy me a little.
Your son's totally walking away with this one.
Yeah. Javon's already paid up. He actually showed up about a week and a half ago because once they were mathematically eliminated from getting those 10 wins, he showed up with a bottle of Crown for me, and bringing my son some Gatorades, a thing of Gatorade. So, but I just said, and and just to show you how crazy the season is, this is a game that going down the schedule. I had this as you're going to Denver and you're going to face Russell Wilson and that offense and that defense. And I was like, this is an automatic loss. Now I'm like, but I will stay true to my word and I'll go Denver ugly, ugly game.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I forgot. There is a little bit of a kind of magic factor an X factor you might have, and that is the Broncos passed on Colt McCoy in the 2010 draft for Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
And he might just
Ooh.
have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for Denver, so he might play the game of his
Wow.
life. You never know. You want to change
That's
the
a good
score?
one.
You want to change your prediction?
I'm here. Hey, Kingsbury is still his head coach, right? And play on. I'm gonna stay with my pick, and I'll have to let you know. Like I said, I'll email you when I finally make my last picks in terms of how many confidence points I put on it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be real low. It's gonna be real low.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my confidence is fairly low too. I mean, the good thing so my prediction at the beginning of the season for our overall record was 14-3, and we are literally going to end up 3-14. I have a feeling. I know.
That's confidence right there.
Because I was like, we have the defense. All we needed was the quarterback. We still have Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Javonte Williams, and look at us. We had the quarterback and he sucked.
Can I tell you the beating I took? Because last year when they got to the playoffs and everything, I still had them, and I was close enough in that picking, but I took a pure beating at the beginning of the year when I made my, prediction.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. We had callers into our Saturday show, and there was one caller, Art. He blew me up. He was just like, and I was like, well, we'll see. I look pretty smart right about now. Our last show of the year is coming up on Saturday because Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are Saturday. So I'm going to take a victory lap like you can't imagine this Saturday on the show.
Yeah, good for you. You take that lap. You deserve it. We deserve victory in something when our teams can't provide it.
That's
right?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Well, Ed, this has been super fun. So enjoyable to talk to you. And
absolutely.
Commiserate a little bit about our teams. Hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully we have some offense, some good defense. It's like, if we could hope for something, it'd be a great game where you feel good about the moving forward. Something.
Hope springs eternal.
It does.
All you can say.
Do you watch Ted Lasso? It's the hope that kills you.
I've never seen an episode of that. I need to though, because everybody talks about it.
So good. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Go Broncos.
Go Cardinals. No, go Broncos. I picked the Broncos too. Hey, go Broncos. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, real quick before you go, my son and I always joke. He'll look at me every now and then, and he'll just say, "Broncos country." That's right.
That's right. I love it. Yeah. Do it one time for us. I'll let you close out the show with that.
Broncos country. That's right.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Ed. It's been a pleasure.
You got it.
Have a good one.
Broncos country. That's right.